What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. Coming off another strong week, going 14-5 overall, makes us 53-31 over the last 4 weeks. Probably the best 4-week stretch we've ever had, but likely a bit unsustainable. We'll try and keep it going though. I do feel really good about the picks this week, so let's hop into them. So first up, Evan Engram, higher than 49.5 receiving yards. Engram averaged nearly 19 fantasy points per game, over a 25% target share, and had at least 60 receiving yards in 4 of 5 games with Christian Kirk out last season. And not only will that be true this weekend, Kirk done for the season, unfortunately, but most of the skill players on the Jaguars are also banged up. I still don't know exactly who's going to play this weekend. My guess is honestly that most of them play. That Etienne plays, that Brian Thomas Jr. plays, that Gabe Davis plays. I think all are probably going to play. If any are out, it just helps, obviously, Evan Engram more. But even if they do play, they're banged up. Like, all of them are still playing through injuries, and so they can be less effective. They can be a lesser part of the game plan as well, because remember, these teams game plan all throughout the week. If they don't know with 100% certainty guys are going to be out there, they're going to focus that game plan a little bit more on the players who they do know are going to play, and that is Evan Engram. Jags are also more than a touchdown underdogs. They're taking on Eagles teams and thrown on at the 8th highest rate in the league. There are just going to be a lot of pass attempts on the Jaguars side. We can feel pretty confident that the Eagles are going to win this game, are going to be ahead. And so we can feel good about the projected game script. We can feel good about Engram being relied on heavily in this offense. So 49.5 receiving yards, simply too low in my eyes. I also like Jakobi Meyers, higher than 50.5 receiving yards. Myers has definitely struggled to stay healthy this season, but when he's been out there, he's been really, really good. So far this season, the top wide receiver against the Bengals has gained 12, but then 57, 75, 81, 83, 85, 100, and 111 receiving yards. That 12-yard game you have there was against the Patriots in week 1. Not only do the Patriots not really have wide receivers capable of posting big games, but that was a game that New England was winning for most of the game. They were ahead. They were running the ball every single play. That's why you didn't see elevated passing yardage there. So in all but one game this season, the top wide receiver against this Bengals team has cleared 50.5 receiving yards, with 6 of 8 gaining at least 75 receiving yards. Myers in his first game without Adams last week, his first healthy game. Of course, Adams has been gone for a while, but again, Myers has been injured. Had a 30% first read percentage on the season. He has the best separation score on the team, even counting Devonta Adams. Myers is just an underrated wide receiver. We know that he's now clearly the best wide receiver on this team, and the Raiders are going to have to throw the ball this weekend. It is really unlikely that the Raiders get up by multiple scores and are able to run the ball with a lead. So I think Myers very likely to clear 50.5 receiving yards. Another one I like is Bo Nix, higher than 211.5 passing yards. The Ravens have faced the second highest opponent passing play rate on the season. They've allowed the most passing yards per game by a mile. We attacked this spot last week with James Winston. We're going right back to the well this week. Even with them winning the game, the Browns won last week. Even with that occurring, they still threw the ball over 65% of the time on the season. Nick Chubb last week was the only running back to hit 50 rushing yards against this Baltimore run defense. He was the only running back with at least 6 carries to have a positive rushing yards over expectation per attempt. You just cannot run on the Ravens. And I don't expect this Broncos team, who has struggled to run the ball against even bad opponents at times, I don't expect them to be the first team that all of a sudden rips apart Baltimore on the ground, especially when we look at the projected game script with the Ravens' massive home favorites. So we're very likely going to see elevated pass attempts this weekend. In the 5 games where Bo Nix has attempted at least 33 pass attempts, he's gone higher than this 211.5 yard projection in 4 of those 5 games. 7 of 8 quarterbacks have thrown for at least 269 yards against Baltimore. So 212 for Bo Nix to hit that is not exactly asking a lot. I would preferably like to pair him with a pass catcher. I don't have a super strong take on which one. Of course, we know Sutton is their best, but of course Sutton is also going to have the highest projection on Underdog. Right now, I have the recommendation as Troy Franklin, since his underdog projection is only 21.5 receiving yards. That's like 2 receptions. So if we're going to see elevated pass attempts, we're also likely going to see a little bit more 11 personnel, get him onto the field a little bit more. His snaps were trending up, but Denver has been involved in back-to-back blowouts. They've just been destroying teams the last 2 weeks because they've played poor opponents. I highly doubt that Denver is going to blow out Baltimore. If either one of these teams is blowing out the other, it's going to be the reverse, right? So we're going to see way fewer times where, in the second half of the game, Denver's going out there, they're in 12 personnel, they're running the ball a ton, and we're not seeing Troy Franklin on the field or not seeing him used. You're so much more likely to see Denver trailing in the second half for them to have to throw it, for them to go into 11 personnel, for Troy Franklin to be on the field and to be utilized in the receiving game in what is potentially, I guess you could say, the best matchup for pass catchers. Again, 291 passing yards per game. So much more than even the second worst team. Teams got to throw the ball on Baltimore. Even if we're not expecting Troy Franklin to be like highly efficient, he needs like 2 receptions to hit here. So again, Bo Nix, Troy Franklin, like using both of them. Another grouping I really like using there is this Colts passing attack with the run back on the Vikings side. Joe Flacco, higher than 231.5 passing yards. Josh Downs, higher than 55.5 receiving yards, and then Michael Pittman Jr. higher than 52.5 receiving yards as well. The Vikings are the only team facing a higher opponent pass play rate than Baltimore, and it's for very similar reason, right? Why would you think that teams would throw the ball at a very elevated rate against a team? Well, it's because they have a pretty good run defense and they have pretty good offense on the other side. So you either find yourself trailing, or if you get ahead, it's very difficult to run it anyway, so you just continue passing regardless. The least efficient thing you can do in the NFL right now is run on the Vikings. So teams smartly choose not to do that, right? Why would you do the worst efficient thing you could possibly do? We also know that Joe Flacco is going to be a starting quarterback this week. In the 5 games that Anthony Richardson has started and finished the season, the Colts have a 50.34% pass play percentage. That would be the 7th lowest rate among all teams on the season. In their 2 Joe Flacco starts, that jumps to 64.3%. That would be the 4th highest rate on the season. Couple that with Flacco just being way more accurate than Anthony Richardson, and you can see the big upgrade this is for the pass catchers. With Anthony Richardson at quarterback, the Colts have averaged 16 catchable targets per game. That is good for last in the NFL. With Flacco at quarterback, that jumps to 31 per game. That is good for first in the NFL. So they're going, these pass catchers, from a league worst situation to a league best situation while facing an opponent that no one is throwing on at a higher rate. So I'd not only be good taking these 3, but as you'll see in a second, I'd be good bumping up projections as well. On the other side, Justin Jefferson has been vocal recently about how he wants to get the ball more. He's upset only getting like 80, 90 receiving yards in games. You gotta love this guy, right? I mean, he's got at least 81 receiving yards in 6 consecutive games, and yet he's frustrated that he's not going over 100, over 110 every single week, right? Love it. Absolutely love it from him. And I love pairing Jefferson with those 3 to make a 4-pick entry. Normally, you're going to want to use insurance. So whenever you have a 4-pick entry on Underdog, you're going to want to just throw on insurance. You only have to get 3 of the 4 correct. That's how the math works out. Unfortunately, when you use all of it from the same team, they're going to bump down the payout because there is this added correlation. Of course, they know you're way more likely to get all 4 right or 3 of the 4 right if you're correlating it all together. So they're going to reduce the payout. So we only do that if the 4 picks are from different games, or maybe 2 are from the same game and 2 others are from different games, just because the payout just doesn't make sense if you do that. So either, these are the 2 things you can do this weekend. Either use those 4 at a baseline. Don't adjust any projections. Don't put on insurance. That is, again, Joe Flacco, higher than 231.5 passing yards. Josh Downs, higher than 55.5 receiving yards. Pittman, higher than 52.5 receiving yards. And then Jefferson, higher than 84.5 receiving yards. You can do that, or you can bump up those projections, which is what I'm doing as part of the promo this weekend. I'll be adjusting the Underdog projection of Joe Flacco up to 299.5 passing yards, higher on that. And then Justin Jefferson, 109.5 receiving yards, higher on that. That'll change it from 6.24x with no boost if all four hit to 28.6x with no boost if all four hit. Justin Jefferson has at least 86 receiving yards in 34 career games, which is absolutely nuts given how young he is. Among those 34 games with at least 86 receiving yards, only 7 have landed between 86 and 109. Typically, when Jefferson goes off, he goes off. He goes off on the high end. So if he's going higher than his baseline projection this weekend, 80% of the time, he also goes higher than 109.5. So it makes it well worth adjusting his projection higher. And for Flacco, we see a similar trend. Flacco has 8 starts over the last 2 years. In 2 of those 8 starts, he has lower than 190 passing yards. In 1 of those 8 starts, he has between 190 and 300 passing yards. And then in 5 of those starts, he has at least 309 passing yards. So if either side is hitting here, it's also pretty likely they're hitting big. They're going way higher in their projection. And so it just makes sense not only to boost them up, but to correlate them as well. If Jefferson's going to hit on a 40, a 50-yard pass, it's going to get the Colts back onto the field. It's going to force them to be aggressive in a game script or in a matchup where they're already likely to be aggressive through the air, and vice versa. If Pittman or Downs is going to hit deep downfield, it's going to force the Vikings back onto the field, and Jefferson is also a stud. He's someone that's going to want the football. He's someone that they're going to utilize heavily in this offense. And if all 4 of these hit, I'll be giving away $250 to a random person who likes and reposts my tweet about that. That is the easiest possible way to tail this without even needing to place anything on it. If you do want to tail, though, make sure you're doing it on Underdog. And if you don't have an account yet, easy to sign up. Promo code FFA. Do that. You'll get a free special. You get a free deposit bonus. You'll get my rankings, projections, positional reports, Underdog picks early each week, all for free. Best deal in the industry. Why not take advantage of that? So good luck to everyone this weekend, both for Underdog and for your redraft leagues as well. That'll do it for this one, though. Please leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new here and you watch this far. Really helps me out. I'll catch you all on the Monday video where we go over the top waiver wire picks for week 10.